Alright guys, welcome to my channel. My name's Steve. This is my 5-litre M70 V12 from BMW. It came out of the car just beyond it, which is my 1991 BMW 850i. If you've been following along, you'll know that the top end of this engine has been giving me a lot of trouble. So I want to strip this engine apart, get the head sent off for a rebuild, and we can go from there. So that involves me taking this whole bloody thing apart myself. So stick along for the ride. Okay, that's the engine in the air, and there's actually a step we need to complete on the transmission before we remove it from the engine. So if you see on the underside here, I've just removed this kind of inspection cover, and that exposes this inspection hole. And when you rotate the transmission and engine, it basically exposes 3 bolts. That's 1 of 3. So you need to rotate the flywheel a third basically to get at each bolt, remove each one, and that actually separates the torque converter from the drive plate. And I've just got one removed, and I'm going to remove the other 2 now as well. And the last one. There is actually a special tool for this, but a 17mm socket gets it off pretty easy. And that's the third one out. That's the last one. Why won't you come out? And she's off. Woo! Alright, this is an old engine mount, but it should do the job. Take it a little higher. Ta-da! That is one big ass engine. Here we go guys, so check it out. Everything is now finally set up. The engine is sitting pretty on its stand. What an absolute monster, look at the size of that. But the entire workstation has been set up, so I'm surrounded by all my tools. I've got a nice worktop in the background there and some shelving. I have lots of bins and buckets for all the parts. And all I've done to this point is just remove the ignition components. So as you can see, the leads are missing, both distributors are missing, the internal contacts, the metal shroud that basically sits behind it all, and both throttle bodies have been removed as well. But other than that, I haven't taken anything else off the engine. Oh, I have actually. I've removed the subframe, as you can see, so that's just sitting over there in the corner. But everything's ready to roll, nothing left to do but strip this bad boy down. Let's go. Next, let's get these manifolds off. That's the top row of nuts removed, and now onto the more difficult lower ones. These are the kind of angles we're looking at. It's super, super tight. That's the last bolt removed, and now we can get the manifold off. And now I'm just removing the crankcase breather on this side. It seems like I did too good a job sealing these manifolds last time. There we go. Dipstick's in the way. Nice. With that manifold removed, you can see it's a lot easier now to get at these nuts. So this should be off in 2 minutes flat. Let's label this one too, just so we know which one is which. Not that it matters, these are actually machined perfectly. They're a mirror image of each other. But there is differences on the back plates for temperature sensors and for cable management, that kind of thing. So this is the left side. Now we can move on to removing the intake manifold gaskets. Nicely sealed. That was straightforward. There we go. Oh. Oh, nice. Oh, that's heavy. We're going to remove this bracket now. This holds on the hydraulic pump, and there's actually 8 bolts that hold it on, would you believe? This aircon compressor comes off pretty easy as well, just 4 bolts holding it on. Keep forgetting how heavy all this stuff is. While we're all the way down here, we might as well take off the mount bracket too. These heat shields here that cover the exhaust manifolds, they gave me awful trouble a few years ago just trying to get these bolts out. But now the engine is actually out of the car. I've just jammed 9 and 10 mil sockets over these and they're coming out pretty easy. A series of 12 mil nuts hold on the manifolds. While we're down this low, we might as well remove the starter motor. And now the engine mount. 3 17 mils. Central coolant tubes. Remember to lift up on this. Let's not have a repeat of what happened a few years ago when I broke off this little stem here. One of the last few remaining things on the outside of the engine is this lower hydraulic line, filter housing, this long tube here, and the mount on the side of the block. 4 bolts, 1, 2, 3, 4, has it removed. Let's get it off. Moving onwards and upwards, I want to sort the bottom end of the engine, so we need to twist this thing upside down. Whoa. So we start with the oil level sensor. That's rather nasty looking. And we have an array of 10 mil bolts to remove. Spinny, spinny. Okay, we're moving on to the upper oil pan now. We have an array of bolts down the sides, down the inside, and along here. And we need to detach 2 10 mil bolts here. Bop. Has somebody been here before? I forgot about these bolts. Tappy tappy. There we go. And my transmission bolt is still in here. Actually, that can unscrew, but we'll leave it in for now. The heart of the beast. Hot damn. Still going in order. Next up is the oil pump, which comes off with 3 bolts as far as I know. That was pretty loose. Okay, you just have to pull hard and this should pop out. There we go. And we still have an O-ring in here. So the engine is spun back in the upright position. Let's get these valve covers off. Shinny, as we say in Ireland. All right. Oily. With the valve covers removed, I want to remove the front timing covers, which is essentially just one large cover. And you've got an array of 10mm bolts all the way around. Thankfully, these are all the same size. And that's the inside of the timing cover. We've got outer gaskets and inner gasket and quite a bit of crud there on the inside. And this bad boy here is the top timing and this bad boy here is the top chain guide. Top timing chain guide. And this bad boy here is the top timing chain. And this bad boy here is the top and this bad boy here is the top timing chain guide, which is actually in pretty good condition. But we're going to replace that. So we can just about touch the top of the cover under tension. The next task at hand is to remove the crank bolt, and this is not an easy thing to do. Best practice is to actually lock the crank down with a special BMW tool, but that tool is about €150 shipped and single use, so I improvised my own. I basically put 4 holes through this high grade steel and lock the crank against the floor essentially, and use this power tool to remove about 440 Newton meters. No easy task. You want to have a beefy power tool to remove it. This is a stretch bolt and can't be used again, so you need to buy a new one when reinstalling. Easy. Lower timing chain cover. Nasty. Well, this is what happens when you use an impact instead of using a ratchet. Come on, it'll reach a point where it just bites.
It's actually breaking.
The bolt splitting, is it?
Yeah. It's damaged, like.
Skipping ahead to the following evening, and as you can see, the engine is pretty much bare bones at this stage. You've got that characteristic V, looks fantastic, and the cylinder heads are pretty much ready to be popped off the top of the engine. As you can see, we've accumulated a serious amount of parts at this stage. We've got all the ancillary accessories, we've got alternator, water pump parts, what else, AC compressor, all fuel injection parts, manifolds, we've got vacuum lines here, and of course everything that I just stripped off the engine, all the top covers, lower pan parts, all the engine mounts, exhaust, you name it, it's all on this table. Everything's been bagged and tagged. I've been quite formulaic, I suppose, and rigid in terms of how I've been kind of labeling parts. So for example, all the bolts are basically labeled, as you can see, front lower timing chain cover, and they stay with the cover, and so on and so forth. So pretty much same system for every part that's on that bench. Hopefully it'll make reassembly that bit easier. And for some strange reason, I had in my head that I could basically leave these cams fully in situ and basically just take out the head bolts and remove the heads, slap them on a pallet and send them off to be completely rebuilt. But then I realized that that's not a safe way to do it. As you can see, essentially some of the lobes are pointing down, which means the valves are essentially open and sticking out the bottom side of the actual head. So there's no way to safely transport it in that kind of condition. So the cams are going to come off. That's going to depress all the springs all the way along. All the valves will move up to their closed position. Well, assuming they can actually close, because there's obviously a problem with several of these valves, but they will be in mostly closed state, making it far easier to ship. So yeah, let's get these cams off and we can get the cylinder heads off. and out comes the cam, which is a lot heavier. And just for completeness, I'm going to install these caps back in place. And here's a close-up of the right side bank. It looks pretty clean in there. I'm also going to remove each of the rocker arms and keep track of which one is which. And also the adapter plate here. And the hydraulic lifter. And that's the last one. Okay, we're going to work off the repair manual, which basically shows a crisscross inwards pattern for loosening the bolts, starting on the outside and slowly working your way back in. All right. Okay, here we go. Wow, that's a lot of carbon and a lot of rust. Check this out, I've actually just removed the rocker arm and I'm trying to pull out this lifter, and lo and behold, it's completely stuck. It will not come out. And I'm giving it plenty of force there and nothing. So that's definitely been causing issues. Yep, that's just not coming out, so I'm going to leave it in situ and move on to the next one. I've moved up a bit here now to this pair. This is number 20, and this lifter is also quite sticky, and there's a small bit of wear on this as well, which I spotted. You spot it just there. Another one to note. Here we go, same process again, all 14 head bolts coming straight out. Okay, all the bolts and washers are out. Let's give this a bit of a tap. Crusty. All right, so we have both cylinder heads off. They're now sitting on the table over there, as you can see. But let's take this quick opportunity to have a quick look at the cylinder linings. So I've just been turning the engine over a few times with a bit of oil in each cylinder. And I have to say, these linings are absolutely immaculate. They are so crisp, so clean. There's a nice sheen off them all. There's no marks on them at all that I can discern. Certainly no vertical marks. Very good condition all around. And we'll take a look at the opposite side now. I'll rotate the engine around so we can see a few more of the liners. But as you can see, excellent condition. I mean, they're essentially brand new looking. We'll swap around here to the opposite side. They look exceptionally clean. And I just rotated it a bit more there. There's some of the outer linings. Again, that's just their oil marks. They'll just rub right off. For example. Excellent, excellent condition. Absolutely delighted. The bottom end looks very, very clean and very crisp. To be honest, the pistons are a lot cleaner than I thought they'd be. But again, they should clean up pretty nicely. So let's take a look at these cylinder heads and see what the whole valve train is like. So straight off the bat, the exhaust valves are extremely dirty, as you can see here. Man alive, look how dirty they are. And it's hard to tell from here, obviously, without testing them fully and removing them in their entirety. But yeah, they look pretty crusty. And more telling is the back side of these valves. When we look in from the opposite side, they are very, very rusty. These are some of the better ones. I'm trying to find one here that's in a slightly open position. You can see there, basically every single one of the valves has rust on them. So I have no doubt that the actual cylinder head side, as in the port, is going to be rusty also. But let's just flip this one around here. And again, it's much the same story as the opposite side. Very crusty. I have no doubt many of these are not sealing correctly. So it'd be great to get these reground and matched perfectly to the actual cylinder head themselves. Alright, go on then, it would be rude not to. Oh yeah, buttery smooth. And as I'm sanding off both of the heads, it obviously makes sense to sand off the cams also. And there's a very small bit of pitting on some of the lobes, as you can see there. Some minor marks. Actually, that's one hell of a mark there. So yeah, these may well need a bit of attention also. Not the worst, but not the best either. So we'll see what the experts say. Yeah, let's get the expert opinion and go from there. And everything on this table is pretty much what I'm going to send off for refurb. And where I've decided to send them is the same place that Sretton on M539 Restorations has sent his, which is Lukas over in Totmar in Poland. They basically specialize in cylinder head rebuilds. They've done the M70 so many times before that I'm very happy to send it over to them. So I was initially thinking, you know what, from Ireland, I'm going to have to stick these on a pallet. But I reckon I'm going to get away with sending them with a courier because, again, they're actually not that heavy. I'd say maybe in around 20 kilos, 22 kilos, maybe a touch more. So I'm taking 3 parcels, parcel 1, parcel 2, and then all the valve train components and the cams in parcel 3. So that should be relatively safe. So I'm going to get these packed up, get them loaded into the boot, and get them ready to go to Poland. Out with the dog food. In goes the carpet. Now off the pulling with you. All right, so that's it for another video, guys. Thanks so much for watching. I'm really happy with the progress so far. I've never done anything like this before. Look at this, there's an entire engine in bits here. I've never done anything remotely like this before, so I'm really happy with the progress I've made. I can't wait to get these cylinder heads back from Poland. Hopefully they're in a brand new spick and span condition. It'll be very interesting to see how bad the seal was between the valves and the actual cylinder heads themselves. Also very interesting to see that stuck lifter as well. That's undoubtedly been causing issues. It was actually this cylinder here, cylinder number 8. So yeah, that was undoubtedly causing issues. So looking at the bottom end, this is what I'm always reluctant to do because the compression levels were so good before I took the engine apart. But now that the engine is apart, it makes perfect sense to swap out the piston rings. I'm going to leave all the liners as they are. Obviously they're in like a brand new condition. And like I say, the compression was absolutely perfect before I took the engine apart. So there should be no issue there. But it makes sense to do the rings now. Take the pistons out, give everything a clean over, new rings, put it back together, and then I can reassemble the actual cylinder heads whenever they arrive back. So really looking forward to that, and I'm going to cover it all in the next video, so stick around and I'll have a new video very soon.